Welcome to Insight, today produced in collaboration with KCOS 13, El Paso Public Television. Today we are chatting with Brenda Risch, Executive Director, and Julian Casillas, Board President of the Borderland Rainbow Center. Brenda and Julian have generously agreed to share some of their experience with us. I'd like to thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So Rainbow, it's the entire community. It is in El Paso. Talk about the Borderland Rainbow Center, its founding, and your mission today.
Well, it's been an amazing journey for us. We've been in existence for about a year now, and this all came about. I've been in El Paso since about 2004, and I've been active in our community, the LGBTQ community, and I was training to become a master's level social worker. And in my first internship, I had the opportunity to co-facilitate a group for the parents and family members of transgender youth. There was a lot of need for helping support those folks and understanding what their young person was going through and how their family would be changing and what this meant for them. And my co-facilitator, Grace Perez, the president of PFLAG, and I were really dedicated to this, and we did it for about a year. And the agency that was hosting us closed. And so I saw this coming. I saw, oh, they're going to close. We're not going to have a home for this group and for its companion youth transgender group. And this is a vibrant activity. We need this. Every week we have new people asking for services. What are we going to do? Where are we going to go? A lot of our members wouldn't be comfortable necessarily in a church. There aren't a lot of free spaces to have meetings. So as in that spring semester of that year, I designed and executed a needs assessment of the LGBTQ community in El Paso. And I got about 562 respondents, which is a pretty good sample. And I found out that people indeed we needed a community center, and that they had very clear ideas about what we needed to have available for folks. And so the top 5 things that came out were space for support groups, drug and alcohol-free social space, access to medical care, things like educational and social workshops, opportunities to develop oneself, learn about culture, things like that. And so I took the data from my needs assessment and I just went out into the community. I started talking to city council. I talked to business people, and I had this one-page brief, and I would just go up to someone and say, hi, I know that you're a business person in El Paso, and I was wondering if you might have a building, because I need a building for an LGBT community center. And believe it or not, that worked. I was able to find someone who gave us a space. We rehabilitated that space. It had been in disrepair, and they were very generous with us. And we had a home from September 2nd when we opened last year through May of this year. And then some folks in the community kind of approached us and said, hey, we have a more centrally located spot, and we'd like to help you get started here nearer to public transport so that you can really be accessible to folks. And we're like, absolutely, we love this. So we saw the space the week before Mother's Day. We moved the Wednesday after, and the next day we're open having support groups again. So it's been an incredible journey. All of the families who were involved in these support groups, the different LGBT members of the community, they just came forward and donated time. And so all of our activities are volunteer staffed at this point, which is phenomenal considering that we're open 7 days a week.
How did you get involved, Julian?
So I am El Paso born and raised. I had the opportunity life took me to the San Francisco Bay Area upon graduating from UTEP. There it was if there's a Pride Center or an LGBT Center, it's like, which one are you talking about, right? And so my life brought me back this past August, right when, the Borderland Rainbow Center was coming into fruition. Once I saw this come upon my Facebook feed, I immediately connected with Dr. Risch, who we've known each other from my undergrad years. I had a huge passion for youth, seeing them as our future and to ensuring that they're not living in a society where they feel like they're marginalized, bullied, what have you. And so I came forward, I presented the idea of bringing some leadership programming for our students, and things just kicked off, and I've been honored and privileged to be part of this opportunity, and so much momentum, and being in a leadership role now has provided me with a great perspective of how to best serve our community here in El Paso.
What is the role of the center in helping people who have sometimes felt with justification that they are sitting outside?
Oh, I mean, I think we're central to that role. We are the only professionally run alcohol and drug-free space where people can come and socialize. So not only the programming that we offer, the support groups, the education, the safe social opportunities, but the fact that it's a space where everyone is accepted, right? Like anybody can walk in the door. I mean, we're open to the whole entire community. For example, we have a food pantry, and anyone who's in need of food is welcome to come and receive services. We've partnered with lots of different kinds of groups, not just things that are focused on LGBT people. And so I think that an essential part of being accepted and recognized and seen is knowing that this is a safe space for me, and anyone who's my ally can come here with me, right? And can participate with me and can be part of this, right? So we just have very simple rules. No tolerance for discrimination, no tolerance for hatred, violence, ugliness, no racism, no sexism, transphobia, homophobia, and you're welcome. And we've had absolutely no problems, actually. Our neighbors love us. We interact with them on a regular basis. And so it's been a wonderful experience offering that space.
You've mentioned drug and alcohol free a number of times. This is a very important aspect because the isolation that one sometimes suffers and the rejection that people suffer can be dealt with through a self-medication.
Yes.
In which you end up self-medicating to the point of addiction and to the point of dysfunction. Talk about that whole aspect of the center.
Well, I mean, that's absolutely the number one reason why it is drug and alcohol free, and why we offer Addictions Anonymous, LGBT-friendly support group for folks who are struggling with addiction. I think that many subcultures, their social and kind of public lives end up in a marginalized space. There's maybe one or two places in the community where they can go and be safe and be themselves. And for decades in the United States, this has been bars and clubs for the LGBTQ folk. And basically, what are you offering people when that's the only safe space that's available? I mean, it's lovely. Everybody enjoys nightlife, right? Like that's a normal part of an adult experience. However, we have lots of other needs and interests and ways of relating to each other. So for me and for the center, I think it's been absolutely crucial to have that family-friendly space. And then to have professionals available. If someone does come forward and say, I'm really worried. I've realized, now being here that the rest of my social life has not been very healthy. We can help people be connected with services in a way that's respectful and where they feel safe and seen and recognized for who they are, for the great people they are.
And Julian, how does the board work, and what does your board membership look like?
So the board is comprised of different community members. Our diversity lies in having members who are born and raised from El Paso. We have representation from military. We have youth, trans folks. I think it provides a wonderful perspective. We are looking to ensuring that we are reflective of our binational community to ensure that we have that open and welcoming space for anyone who walks in the door, right? And so, I mean, it's true for any organization. They want to ensure that their leadership is reflective of their community that they're serving.
Could you continue to describe those different programs and services that you provide out to the community?
Sure. In terms of support groups, we have the transgender youth group and the family, the support group for the family members of transgender youth. We also have an adult transgender support group. And then we do a lot of coalition building, like we work with other organizations. So
partners.
Yes, partners, absolutely. Like we had a jointly sponsored event with one of the student organizations, Texas Rising, where Wendy Davis came and she talked about, we had a panel that we participated in about what happens when lies get turned into laws. So we do address, issues of like education around legislation. Like obviously we're not advocating for a particular law or our candidate, but we do want people to be educated, right, and to be engaged in their government. We've done a series called The Queer Crash Course, which is a little bit of LGBTQI history. So looking at the contributions of transgender folks to the United States, looking at the history of the terms that we use, things like that. So, and that's going to be a continuing, ongoing series. Julian, do you want to talk about a few of the things that you host?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the funnest things that I get to host is our Karaoke Nights. And so we attract usually, as young as, 7 or 8 to our older folks, and just get together on a Friday night and enjoy some nice music and hopefully some good singing.
There's some good singing.
Yeah,
there really
absolutely. Beyond that, youth events that we host, and one thing that I want to emphasize that maybe hasn't been brought up yet is our accessibility. And so most, if not all, of our events are absolutely free. We do have some low cost for some of our therapy services, but beyond that, we want it to be 100% accessible for anyone who walks in the door. So all of our events are free. So again, we're 100% donor run and volunteer organized nonprofit, and we want to do our best to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Brenda, Julian, thank you so much for planting the flag, for forging for others, for creating a path for the community, and thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Insight, today produced in collaboration with KCOS 13 El Paso Public Television. Today we are chatting with Salvador Balcota, Chief Executive Officer of Centro de Salud Familiar La Fe. Salvador has generously agreed to share some of his experience with us. I'd like to thank you, Salvador, for joining us today.
Well, thank you for inviting us.
Your organization is so unique. It is so embedded in the community. It's 50 years old. Tell us how this organization was founded and its mission today.
The organization was founded in 1967 in the tenements of Segundo Barrio, that's South El Paso, the third poorest zip code in the country at that time. Centro de Salud Familiar La Fe was born out of women being in patios during those summer nights, during those winter nights, and saying, we need an organization that can help us with housing, an organization that can help us with immigration, an organization that can help us with violence, an organization that can help us with our youth,
So what type of programs do you offer today?
Well, today we have a comprehensive primary community health center, which offers your traditional primary health care.
It's walk-in?
It's walk-in and appointments, mostly appointments. It's a federally qualified health center. We have comprehensive dental services. We have eye services, women, infant, and children programs. We have pediatric and adolescent services. We have immunizations for both children, adolescents, and adults. We have ancillary programs like laboratory services, X-ray services, pharmacy services.
So these are all the types of services that are first very costly, secondly, extract funding and funds from families who have very few funds regardless, funds for drugs. These are the types of services and products that, in order to afford them, you end up impoverishing yourself unless you find some sort of support.
Oh, of course. Most of our people, even with the minimum pay that we ask for, which is $20, a lot of times can't afford those $20. We've got to provide the services whether they can pay or not.
Right.
Let me tell you, though, we push that they pay. We push that they find some type of money so that the organization can come around. So a lot of times when you have some negative ideologies, I call it negative ideologies in the sense that we go like, well, our people are poor, we shouldn't charge them anything. Everything should be free.
Isn't that a little paternalistic?
Well, it's more than paternalistic. A lot of times it's a death sentence to yourself. Because a lot of these centers that have refused throughout the years to bring in money from the community itself have died.
Right.
You know? And because of some person's naive, idealistic notion that poor people can't take care of themselves, destroys something that could have grown like we've grown.
So you're coming to poverty with an understanding of the circumstance, but it is an understanding with also a sense of responsibility. In other words, you understand that sometimes those means are not available. Your people understand that sometimes those means are not available. But the attempt to find the means is really important for self-respect and for communities being able to support their own range of services in the guise of Centro de Salud Familiar La Fe. That whole idea of let's move as far as we possibly can given our means. Let's take that next step if we can take it. And that's the insistence that you're talking about.
I think most importantly is that you find that a lot of these people will create a peer type of approach,
right,
and a peer type of pressure to make individuals come in and become part of the process,
right,
become part of the solution, right?
Part of the family.
Exactly. You know, I mean, when the feds come to our offices and they sit there, and it's the first time that they landed La Fe, and they're kind of like a little bit leery, if you will, because all of a sudden the offices have all these posters of not only Chicano movement, but of other related movements, you know, whether it be the African American movement or whether it be, you know, movements from all over the world. You know, they see a big Che Guevara that says, you know, if you're not part of the solution,
you're part of the problem.
You're part of the problem.
Talk about your other programs.
We're teaching people how to speak English. You know, we're teaching some of the people that dropped out of school, we're getting them to get their GEDs. We're bringing in some vocational types of programs with the help of like the community college here. We're doing different types of workplace type of functions. You know, creating catalyst programs for micro enterprise. We've got an educational culinary school. We've got a food streetcar program. We've got a charter school, which we're super proud of, right? Because we've got a pre-K through 8th grade charter school where we've got almost 300 kids in a dual language environment, in a thematic learning program.
How many people do you serve annually?
Well, we serve anywhere from 20 to 24,000 people a year.
What is your budget like to serve these 20 to 24,000 people annually?
When we took over the organization in 1992, the federal budget for La Fe was $3 million. One clinic, right around maybe 70 employees. Today, 25 years later, the federal budget is $6 million with 7 clinics and about 275 full-time employees and about another 150 part-time employees.
And what is your total budget?
The total budget is $26 million.
$26 million. So $20 million comes from grants, comes from revenue and fundraising.
Yes. That's not very common, okay?
Right.
You usually see the other.
Right. You usually see the federal grant money dominating, and then then the other funds sort of lagging behind. And then as soon as there's a little bit of a shift in federal funding, you go into crisis.
Exactly.
But that's not how you've developed your finances. It's a phenomenal story. I'm so blessed that you would share the story of Centro de Salud Familiar La Fe with us, Salvador Balcorta. Thank you so much for sharing the history of the organization, the work that you do, and thank you so much for your insights.
Well, thank you for inviting us, and I guess we need about 10 more of these interviews to really tell you the whole story. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
We'll have to do that again.
Thank you.